Yes, everybody, watching the West Ham Network. Hope you are all safe and well. It's Friday. Another week has been done, my friends. Another one has been done. Congratulations. Congratulations. Hope everyone is safe and well. Let me just check as the postman turned up. I said he's going to turn up at, I think he's turned up as I predicted with my wife. Let me just check. Sorry. I think he has. Anyway, Russell the West Ham Network. Hope you're all safe and well. It is Friday. Sorry, Dom from West Ham Fan TV keeps messaging me. Anyway, hope everyone is safe and well. It's Brighton tomorrow. What can possibly go wrong for Graham Potter? Yesterday we had the press conference. I thought it was quite an interesting press. For me personally, it seemed a bit like the journos were going for blood. It seemed they were going for the jugular with some of the questioning. And I know there's been some sort of debate about some people go, it's been, I thought it was quite an animated Graham Potter in terms of just in general, really. He seemed to be really on the offensive a little bit. But, everyone reads into things differently. There's no doubt it's a big game tomorrow, I think, just for everyone's mental health more than anything. Anyway, let's see what we got in the chat. It is have your say. Now, obviously, unfortunately, that the phone thing's not working today, so it has to be just plain old come on to StreamYard. If you want to come and have a chat, and you're not going to be on for ages, so you only be on for a little bit each person. Also, can I just point you to the match, the QR code for Match Bingo, our channel sponsors for the remainder of the season. Hopefully next year, if you guys can help us out. The way you can help us out is by downloading it and playing the Match Bingo cards. And we'll talk about that a little bit more tomorrow. Anyway, Michael, oi, Russell, we're doomed, I tell you, afternoon. Potter has released a statement this morning. He doesn't want to go back to the Phoenix Club. He is happy at West Ham. That reference will be only to people who know what the Phoenix Club is. Anyway, what else we got here? Everyone's talking to each other. Nice to see. Probably about 16 outs. Sorry, Tom keeps on messaging me. Anyway, so 16. I don't know. There's going to be a lot of outs. Interesting. If anyone's got 10 minutes to spare, Mark Noble was on Talk Sport yesterday talking about patience. Have a little patience with West Ham, and interesting move. I wonder whether there was, I don't know. It's with everything that happened, just a bit strange that he comes on national radio. I know it's a golf day and stuff, but still, I just don't know. There's something niggling in the back of my head at the moment about everything. There's been a lot of leaks about players and not being happy and unsettled, and Potter's sort of saying, "Oh, look at the mess that I was left in," that type of thing. It just seems a bit. I think there's a bit of puppetry going on in the backgrounds, in my opinion. Jay says he's worried for next season. I must say, if we're selling him some of the team, I think we could be lucky to remain in the Prem. Interesting, actually, what what's name was saying. Mark was saying in terms of, the likes of people such as, Burnley, Leeds. How do they progress next year? Do they yo-yo, which is what Burnley have done? To be honest, they're quite financially set up because of that. Do they have a go with it? Like someone like Ipswich went and bought a lot of players. Forest famously did. Look where they are now. After the Budgie, hope you will. Don't forget to check out Budgie. Actually, you reminded me, Budgie. You reminded me. I completely forgot about that. Let me just download this. Today is where is it? Today is a very special day I've got to download it. Sorry, Budge. I knew you were saying I forgot. It's Anzac Day in Australia. And and it's a very special day. I'm just going to download. I'm just going to pause something, and I'll put it up. Budgie and Kieran, obviously old school hammers, and Kieran did it. Obviously, he's in Australia. Did a lovely little piece about Anzac Day. It's a very important day for Australian people. So there we go. Potter was doing a Jose in the blankets. What's he doing? Why's that not? Why's nothing happening? Oh yeah, now it's happening. Right, I'll download that in a minute, but I can get it on. Harry Monk, GP, 2-0 win. Harry Monk. I went on YouTube. Would have to close. If I went on YouTube, we'd have to close down the West Ham network. Nose was talking about his golf day for Wiltshire. I know he was, but it was interesting. He was asked about how he was asked about what he thinks about generally in terms of people. So it was quite interesting. I don't think your thing's working, Budge, really well. I'm going to download Kieran's one. Just download that because it was a lovely little thing that Kieran did. Anyway, I fancied Desmond. Do you know what? For me, same as Southampton. Southampton, one of those sides who haven't won in so many games. Same as West Ham, same as Brighton. I'm inclined to agree. I think it's going to be a draw tomorrow. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. Yeah, we might finish with Kieran's video. I'm uncertain about tomorrow. Personally, I'm done with Potter and these players. They have 5 games to change my mind. Well, I did a thing yesterday about what was it? Tuesday, saying what would he have to do to change your opinion? And some, I think generally, yes, I think there's a spectrum. As with everything, there's a spectrum, and for me, there's a proportion of the club, a proportion of the fan base who have made their mind up, which is totally your prerogative. There is a portion of the fate of the fan base who are a bit like the election. They're sort of floating voters, and I think if they see something, I think they'd be happy to go along with the ride, so to speak. And some people won't, and I think with the case, it's usually the louder people. You hear both ways, really, and I think that's always been the case. The loudest people tend to take the assumption of everyone feels the same. I don't think so. I think we've seen on our channel, we do have a lot of people who are pro and a lot of people who are anti, and that's great. And I think someone like Cyril, I think that's a classic example of having someone who can, there's enough for people to have some sort of patience, potentially. Leeds have Red Bull back in. They'll be safe and looking at Saki. Well, that's something I've been reading. Are they looking at getting old Daniel, moving him on already? Because he's very, very good champion. I think Scott Parker. I think Scott Parker's a very good Championship manager. Is he a good Premier League manager? I don't necessarily know. Andrew, be free, Michael. Trev's in the chat. We've had Trev on, lovely fella, comedian extraordinaire. We've had, if you want to come on, Trev, the links in the post, come and have a chat if you fancy. A lot of confidence with Potter. He'll get us back in job. You heard it here first from Trevor. It's Howard here. GP Russ gone for a handle. Oh, sorry. Unbelievable, Harry Monk. Very good. For it to work, Potter will need 4 years to rebuild and get. Well, Tim Steiden did say it takes about 4 years, doesn't it, for a squad rebuild? We know there's going to be some initial surgery needing this summer. And actually, a lot of the players we've got now are on longer term deals. I think Adam from Dad's Eye Podcast, he showed me a spreadsheet, and you see it's actually, I think it's in 2 years' time. There's a lot of players out of contract potentially. I can't remember off the top of my head. But there we go. Need time to look at his squad he's walked into. And I don't think he's been blinded to this. He hasn't been side blinded. Sideline? No, side. You know what I mean? I don't think this is a surprise to him. He's this move was very much not his choosing, but he's had options and others to potentially move into. But he was interested in this role, so obviously he would have done his due diligence and looked at the squad and stuff like that as well. And so would have seen the sentiment of the fan base, how the fan base changes. how they can get behind, but also they can do the other way as well. And so I think there's going to be, none of this is new to him. It's not going to be a surprise to him. I think the fact is, because we've come off such a disappointing season, and then him to come in, we wanted something and we haven't had it. But for me, the players are the same. Now, granted, there are examples, there are exceptions. I think Arnie Slot, he hasn't chatted, but he's walked in very rarely for a manager walks into a side that's already performing. Man United never really have recovered from Ferguson. Arsenal maybe recovered from Wenger. But I mean, you look at Emery, and Emery, if they'd kept Emery on, where would they be now? I mean, look at how Emery is doing now with Aston Villa and has been doing for Villa. Hindsight is a great thing for everything. Everyone, I told you he's going to be crap. Told you he was going to do shit. I told you this was going to happen. But then they're not the same people. Goes, yeah, I told you I was wrong. Yeah, I was wrong. Yeah, Moyes did it. And I think we're suffering a little bit of that hangover from that relative success. Now, I'm not comparing David Moyes to Sir Alex or Arsene Wenger. What I'm saying is, in terms of our relatively, recent history, we've had relative success under Moyes, and now it's like we're suffering a little bit of that hangover. And I mean, Arsenal had to take two. Had to take Emery came in, it failed, then they brought in Arteta, and I think the same true of West Ham personally. But look, hindsight would be a great thing, and in 18 months' time, you'll be saying, "You're fucking fool, Russ," or they won't be saying, "Well done, Russ, you got it right." Granted. Afternoon, do you think this is a willingness to be patient for 18 months? If we assume so, there's a willingness. I don't think there is a willingness. I don't not now in football. I don't think Essex. That's why it was interesting. Something that I thought that Potter said in the presser when he was talking about how Brighton, he took over Brighton when they were full from bottom, and he left them when they were full from top. And he was saying that it's because they looked beyond the results, which I think is a bizarre thing. I think you can't really look. Results are what's important. You win money, you get money, you win trophies, you did it on results. Now, granted, if we're narrowly losing games, which we are in some respects, or narrowly dropping points, you can maybe look at XG and things like that. But even that, we're not really performing great. The stuff I think we're doing is a lot of under the bonnet stuff, the stuff you don't see. I think defensively we are stronger under Potter than we were under Lopetegui, and also under David Moyes in that last year. He hasn't had a thumping since we joined. We haven't had a thumping, a good 4-5-0, but that could happen. And then that theory goes out the window. Then you're only as good as your next result. In all honesty, if we got a couple of wins at the next 5 games, there'll be that some of those floating voters will be more Potter in than Potter out. But it's just the nature of football and the nuance of the football fan. We have to give Papa a transfer window. We'll be bringing in the place he wants to get. And then I wanted him in the West Ham coach. I mean, I always thought he's been a good coach. Again, people go, look, we did at Brighton, but I think with Brighton he took over a side which was languishing under Chris Hughton, and he started them on the path to being a top 10 side and regularly pushing for Europe. And that transition started with Potter. I'm worried about giving Potter war chest in the summer from the sales and our transfer budget, and then all we get is plodders. I don't think we'll get plodders. I think we'll get pieces of the puzzle. I think the creativity bit slightly worries me. But then again, as I said, I go back, and under Potter's time at Brighton, the likes of Matoma were brought in, who was a fantastic player. Billy Gilmore, some more creative players. They're not all robots. And I think, I'd love someone like Richard Rios from Palomares. I think he'd be perfect, but I think he'd be perfect for a lot of sides as well. So we'll have to see. Will we have a team to send to America? Well, they'll probably get me along, John. I'll play centre half. I could offer something different in the final third, I suppose. We always chill the fuck out. I'm Potter. We'll get a tune out of his team. It took him 3 years at Brighton. Unfortunately, though, I don't think we've got that time. We've got that 3 month time, to be honest. I saw it. It was a Southampton game, and it literally frustrated me with the players and changes. Give Potter a transfer window so he can be the players in he wants. Sad news about mistaken for the afternoon. We spoke about that one. Darren's in the chat. Hope you're well. I am not convinced on Potter. Fair enough. Just willing to give him time. I don't know any manager who can come in and make. And I think the trouble is actually there have been managers who have done the same, who have come in. I think Wolves is a classic example. He's come in and made a difference. People talk about Moyes. I think Everton had a good side, had a good defence. They just weren't scoring, so they're picking up a lot of draws. And ironically, Moyes has made them more attacking. But that's it. I'll see you online. We're interested in Mason Mount. I can't see that happening, mate. Right. What we got? Oh, there's loads of people in here. Jay, hope you're well. Michael, hope you're well. Oh, I think David's in the chat. David will come on in a minute, David. Russ, why has got a red hammer? It's about how long people have joined. Give some of the players a bit more experience. For me, but so I think that's a fair comment. That's a fair point. And I think, for the likes of, obviously the likes of, I think we're seeing who the players are going to be leaving in the summer, in my opinion. The fact is, Suchek's not getting a lot of minutes. Alvarez isn't getting a lot of minutes. Now, I'm not saying it's the right decision, but I think you can see, for me, there's, Soler, I think the jury's out for Potter a little bit at the moment. And I agree, why don't we give someone like Lewis Orford a couple of games? The trouble is now they're in the PL2 playoffs at the moment on Saturday, so they won't be, but if they got knocked out, then yeah, why not? Why not? We need the end of the season on a high. I totally agree. Isn't just about the arrogant use more than that they use, but yeah, I suppose we've got a lot of this stuff in play now. We've got a lot of Amazon Web Services and stuff like that. So, but now I'm bringing in Damien. Damien, I'm telling you, you got 5 minutes. Any swearing, and you're off. All right? Because I know you're a passionate man. Yes. How are we doing, my friend?
Russ, can you hear me? Yeah.
Of course I can. Sadly, I can.
Sadly, oh, that's really nice.
Basically,
you're worse than Graham Potter. You're worse than Graham Potter, Russ. You're worse than Graham Potter. He's not been very nice in interviews recently, has he?
I think Potter's been a bit. As I said the other day, for me, I think he's been a bit more. I think yesterday was a really interesting press conference. I thought. I know you didn't, but I did. In that there was,
I thought it was interesting.
The questions were better. They were more direct, and I thought the press were ganging up a little bit on him, to be honest. But that's my opinion. I think Moose was a bit. I didn't really. The way he was talking was a bit smarky, I thought, and I think Potter bit at that. I think he seemed to be on the biting at what people were saying a bit more. When you sort of a little bit, he's feeling the pressure. There's no doubt, mate.
Right. So, all right. So I wasn't going to start with this, but what did you think about the Jared Bowen comments? What did you think about the Jared Bowen comments?
I didn't agree for that question, to be honest. I didn't see that much of a point. It's quite clear, the guys. But in the same way, to be fair, if you listen to the Talk Sport interview that Mark Noble gave, Jared Bowen again was brought up again. So there's been 2 interviews involving high-profile West Ham people, Noble and Potter, and the press and the question about Jared Bowen was brought up on both. Wow. I found that quite interesting. But for me, both of them were from Talk Sport.
There we go. I personally thought, and I'm going to touch on something else after this. I've got things to say, but
okay.
But I personally thought he didn't show enough respect to Jared Bowen as a captain. Personally, that's my view. I feel like I see someone say you missed an open goal with the Fulkrug question, right? And whether I disagree with that or not, I'll go on to. But yeah. With the Bowen situation, it's a simple answer. No, we've no interest in selling Jared Bowen. He's the captain of this club.
Yeah.
This is the thing with Jared Bowen, and I have to paint this out because I've said this throughout the course of the season, and I feel sorry for Jared Bowen. He has been banging. This is his first season as a captain, right? This is his first season as a captain. He has been banging his head against the wall against failed leadership. Now, we'll start from the very beginning. Lopetegui, when he took over this group, Fulkrug made a remark regarding hierarchy. He upset the group, Lopetegui, by playing favourites, trying to surround himself by his own men, not being balanced, and decisions such as, Russ, starting Rodriguez 10 games in a row, you're basically doing it at the expense of an Alvarez, a Souček, maybe a Paqueta. These things all work in tandem. There's only 11 spots on the pitch, Russ. So if you're picking Rodriguez, that means someone who feels like they should be playing, quite possibly, likely should be playing, or at least feels like they should get minutes. Another situation that Lopetegui showed, quote unquote, favoritism is, so we spent 30. Somerville's injured right now, right? And that's fair. Obviously, can't be used at the moment, right? That side has been screaming out last season. I've got so much to go through, so please don't cut me off after 5 minutes, because this can be an interesting conversation, Russ. If you want,
it can be. If it's a two-way conversation, it can be, Damien.
Let me go through things, and you can retort. So Somerville, right? I think that team was screaming out for a left winger last season, right? Definitely, most definitely, to the point where Moyes had to deal without one last season, right? Okay, the argument of concern that he may not be able to do the yards defensively, fine. But then you put Soler there when Kudus is suspended. It doesn't really wash to me. It looks like you're just picking favourites again. Anyway, this is about Jared Bowen. So he was dealing with quite difficult situations then, and he was getting on okay. I think it's happening again. I'll be honest. I think, and it's got worse. It's kind of capitulated across the course of the season, in which Jared Bowen is finding it extremely difficult to operate under failed leadership. If I'm going to be totally honest, I feel I
was going to say, do you think Bowen is the right man to captain the side when at the moment?
I think it's an extremely difficult side to captain, but I do think it. To be honest, I feel like he should be more outspoken about his thoughts. Possibly, I'm not behind the scenes, but I do feel like he needs to sit down with Graham Potter. Part of me doesn't want to enable Graham Potter at the moment because I'm not happy with him. I found him pretty much intolerable, to be completely honest. But and part of me doesn't want to enable him because I don't feel like I owe it to him, because I don't think he's given me anything as a fan to get behind. But if I'm going to be completely honest, I think he needs to sit down for a long time with Jared Bowen and assess the entire situation, because it is not going well at the moment. And that is in terms of results. That is in terms of performances. We just drew 1-1 at Southampton, and they looked at home to Southampton, and they looked the better side. We've been pretty much poor since he came. There have been some decent signs. I do have a problem, and I think decent is a relatively strong word over the entire course, because they are resulting in losses, to be honest. And I do have my concerns that he's going to be able to totally to turn that corner enough for it to make us an actually successful side. I feel like a lot depends on that summer, and if he doesn't get the players he wants, it's going to be really difficult. But anyway, Jared Bowen, I feel like it's been difficult for him. I'll be honest. I think he's trying to step up to the task, but it's very difficult when you've got big personalities, big players who are not happy. And I feel like he's got to the point where he's starting to side with the play, not side with them because he's a club man. We all know that. But I feel like he's got to the point with the players where he's literally, I get it, I do get it. Like if he sees Kudus sulking and he's seen him sulking all season and he knows full well what Kudus is capable of, I think he gets to the point where he thinks, I do get it, And Alvarez, who he knows realistically should be a starter, and it just all follows suit in my opinion. It happens with one, then the other, and that seems to be the way it's going at the moment, in my opinion. You've had Kudus hasn't looked happy for a while. I still feel like if you were to look after him as a player, you'd get more motivation out of him rather than chucking him left wing every single game, and then the fans jumping on his back that he's not playing well because he's playing his third favourite position on the pitch, maybe fourth. These players as well, Tadebo's had a situation in which he didn't enjoy playing under Lopetegui and Lopetegui didn't handle him well. It is the manager's responsibility to handle players well.
Yeah.
This is you can't just say, all right, you're not listening, bad egg. You're not listening, bad egg. You're not listening, bad egg, because eventually it's got to the point where Thomas Souček is speaking out, Russ. Well, when has Thomas Souček been a bad egg?
It's true. But I think we have to always be conscious about where that's come out from. It's come out from a Czech report in a newspaper, which has been translated. We don't, there's so many mitigating, as I think it was Claret who said that, this is sort of news to them. He's always been very positive. He's always been, I'm being funny. He's 30 years old now, so he knows he's not going to be. So I think there's always a yin to the yang. I think it's interesting that, and I get it, and actually it's clear that he's going to be moved out this summer if a bid comes in for him, because he's 30, and actually you're going to get maybe 2 years out of him most, but at his level, I think we need a better level. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I disagree with that personally. I feel like that with Souček, I feel like he eventually. I feel like these movements should have been made maybe last season.
Definitely,
I think it was. I feel like last summer these transitions should have been put in place. I feel like, I hate to say this, and people are going to feel like I'm going after him, and I really don't mean to, but I feel like if Moyes would have said yes to a Fofana, or Fofana, Souček doesn't play in that team and he starts, he might, because Moyes is quite stubborn, but realistically, if you've got an Alvarez and a Fofana in front of the back four and a Paqueta in front of them, you've pretty much got a complete midfield. So you start using Souček in a different way. And I feel like people giving the old 30 years old, Thomas Partey's just been offered a contract and he's 30 years old. So
I think it's Thomas Partey is different.
I'm not saying I'm totally opposed to selling Souček. I just feel like Souček is not the first person to speak out about this, and when you do get someone like Thomas Souček speaking out about it, I feel like it's off the back of a few things. So I'm not convinced. I'll be honest. I am not convinced by Graham Potter. I feel like if you actually assess the period that people have a look at in terms of success, you're looking at, I didn't even mean to start like this. I've actually got questions for you, to be honest.
All right, we've got Pete Woods. Come on, David. So
that's fine. Let me run this up then.
Go on,
so if you look at his period of success, right, which is Brighton, pretty much not many other, You've got so you were saying consistently chasing Europe. He got 15th and 16th.
No, not him. No. Listen.
Okay, they have.
They have now. Yeah, I said he came in. So everyone talks about his Brighton. Oh, we only got 9th, didn't do well. Brighton was shit before he turned up under Chris Hughton. They were
didn't get them promoted.
No. What I'm saying is, listen to what I'm saying. I'm saying he came in. Chris Hughton obviously got him up. Then he had a very poor season with Brighton. He took over, and by his own admission, it's true. They started when he took over. They were fourth from bottom, and he started that process. And when he left, they were fourth from top.
No, I don't see. This is where it starts sounding like false defense.
No.
They didn't finish fourth.
No, I did not say that. I said, Damien. I said when he left. Now I didn't say they finished fourth.
Game one, we were first last season. Yeah. If we would have left last game of the season.
Very true. That's very true. But then they
left them first. I think people would have a bit of a problem about that.
True. Okay, but what I'm saying is he left them in a better place than when he stabilised them, as Kent said.
I do agree.
That's what I'm trying to say. You do go off on the quite quickly, Damien. That's what I'm trying to say, mate.
Left them at fourth, though.
What I'm saying is, but that's what he said. That's what he said. That's what he said on his press conference. And I'm saying exactly what Kent is saying here. He left them as he stabilised them, and then they have become since then. It was the building blocks, which is what they needed. Now, I'm not saying he got him into Europe and because he didn't. He didn't. But what I'm saying is where he brought them on and where he took them to, he actually improved them. Now, obviously, they've gone off and done a lot better since. And the reason why I've done that is because they had the building blocks in place. Now, he's come in, and Lopetegui has basically thrown the baby out the bathwater. I think we've ruined our momentum we had under David Moyes. I think because we probably got rid of Moyes about a year later than we should have. So for me, it's about starting it's almost like starting at the beginning again, it seems. Because I think there's so much bad eggs. I think we've gone backward in a year. I think we have.
Yeah, no, we definitely have. But I feel like that's down to poor management. I feel like there are managers out there that would go in there, love the group, and I don't like him. But I'm gonna be completely honest. I don't like him. I feel like he's totally failed to read the situation massively. I feel like he looks at players like I feel like he looks at people like they're just numbers, basically. I feel like he's looking at people and thinking, you get me 40 million, you'll get me 30 million, you'll get me 25 million. I think he's already devalued players. I'm not impressed. I've literally got other things to say, Russ, that I hadn't that I had planned to ask you, and I'm going to start because there's absolutely no need for me to be thrown off, so to speak.
Not thrown off, but Damien, there's other people who want to have their point.
That's fine. They can go after me.
Because I've got a job as well, so I've got a lunch. This is my lunchtime, so I need to be honest. So you've had 20 minutes.
I knew.
So it's like I'm not doing this. I'm just trying to be. I'm giving you time, but I'm trying to quickly.
Let me ask you a quick couple of questions.
Go on in quickly. Yeah,
what did you think about the Southampton game?
Poor. Next question. We were awful. We were absolutely awful.
What's been your favourite moment under Potter?
Beating Arsenal at the Emirates.
Same. No, it was. Even though I'm an Arsenal fan.
Of course, you're an Arsenal fan now, so there you go, yeah.
I'm joking. But what did you think of the suggestion of Evan Ferguson?
Well, be brought in. I think originally, personally, I thought, okay, it makes sense. Bring him in. He knows him. I think he seriously underestimated how unfit Evan Ferguson was, and that's not come from me. It's come from Bobby Zamora as well. He said the same thing.
Do you think he would have been willing to commit to an obligation for him?
No.
You don't?
No, I don't. Okay, I don't. Now, but as I said, Bobby, when I was talking to Bobby Zamora, he did say he was the best striker that Brighton have got. And he works with him he used to work with him day in, day out. But he didn't have the level of fitness and the level of work rate that Hussler wants. So that's why Evan's going to go in the summer anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. How have you found his conduct with players, media, and the fans?
I think Potter talks a good game, but we haven't really seen it on the pitch. Personally, I think he's a bit of a media darling, and he's obviously we don't take. We can under Lopetegui we understand what he was saying, like from a pure English perspective, and I think that was an issue under the current sort of player base. I think he talks a good game. I think behind the scenes, I know he's done a lot with DT38, which we don't talk about, but he does. I know that personally, and has been very engaged with getting involved with all the charity work at West Ham as well. So, I think as I said, I know you've made your mind up, but for me, I still
no. Game by game.
Yeah, fair enough.
I never make my mind up. Well, if I'm going to be honest, if I'm looking at if I was in charge, I would sack him. I'm not going to lie. I would sack him. I would try and refresh in the summer and get a better, a different style of coach, shall I say, to look at it. But that's my opinion. That's fine. You a lot, like, I'll be honest, charity work. It's not really winning football games, but
it's not. But it's about the community, and when you're part of West Ham, you've got to be part of that. And to be honest, Lopetegui did as well. There was the young lad. He spent a lot of time with the young lad who unfortunately passed away, who was his mascot. And they do stuff, but I know some managers don't do any stuff, and that is being part of a West Ham manager. You have to be part of the community. And you've got to do the community stuff. That's what I'm saying. It's like, it's not just necessary on the pitch. You could be a phenomenal manager, but if you're a complete CUNT and not doing, that's not going to get you at anything long-term with West Ham, in my opinion. But anyway, carry on, mate.
Thanks. Last
question. Go ahead.
Last one, it is. And it's more of a point, yeah?
Okay.
More of my final kind of point, yeah? I'm not sure these five at the back systems are as effective in the Premier League as they are possibly in other leagues. I think Man United might find a route to mediocrity because of it, and Man United were more well resourced than us, unless you are literally wanting to sell absolutely everybody, really. But my concern with it, and this would be advice, it's not scoring enough goals. The thing is, I got into a discussion with a Man United fan just before coming on here, right? And he was saying, and it's fair to say, I suppose, he probably hasn't watched the game that Potter's managed, but he still said it. He said, give him time, right? And I said to him, I don't want to go down the route that Man United are going. I feel like Man United are going down a bad route, and I feel like they're better resourced to go down a bad route than us. I think we're lucky that teams are struggling so much that are coming up. But I don't know how I'd feel about bobbing around mid-table and there for the next couple of years, to be honest. But then again, relegated teams are struggling. Promoted teams are struggling. My thing with the system is, if he goes at a five at the back system, right, is like, for example, Amorim, he used it in Portugal, and it obviously worked. Here are some of the teams that he was playing against in Portugal. This is some of the names of the teams that he was playing against in Portugal.
It's a different league. It's a different. Yeah, we get it.
It's a different league. It's a different league.
And he's very much trying to still keep that. And he's almost like. But maybe the thing that Amarin's showing, it's maybe Potter isn't.
Yeah, here they are. GD Estoril Praia. They are a top half team in the Portuguese league. I've never heard of them. And Aruca, never heard of them either. Right. So it dominated the Portuguese league, right?
Yeah. And it seemed, and obviously for me, but what he's, at least he's stuck to his guns, hasn't he? He said, "Look, I'm playing this way. I know I haven't got the players, but I'm playing this way." Christian Eriksen is not a midfielder for his system, but he's what he's got at the moment. So, and I think that's where we're not seeing anything with Potter. We're not seeing what he's trying to. He keeps changing, and it's like, well, I've got to give Amorim his props. It's not work. He's fucking bloody minded.
Yeah.
But that's his vision, and whether it would be his downfall or not, that's the thing. Mate, I think Amorim's dealt with it better than Potter. If I'm going, I agree. He probably has.
My concern with the system is it's not going to score enough goals.
No, I agree.
genuinely think that, and And if I was to advise him on systems, you need to get 3 goal scorers up there. You need a massive, totally complete centre forward up there who is massive for the Premier League. And the Premier League is a big league. Like it's not a little league. So I tried to make a little funny comment about because I started questioning the direction, right? And I said Samu or bust, and I genuinely am kind of still on that. On that, I feel like you are going to need someone who is absolutely smashing it, And I feel like, your left forward, so to speak, in that system, is going to have to be a goal scorer, like contribute with goals. The 2 centre midfield positions need very, complete centre midfielders who are good defensively and good on the half turn and can play forward. And the wing backs need to be Superman. We've already got one on the right. We need one on the left who flies back and forth. Best defender on the pitch, best attacker on the pitch. You name it. I feel like they're the areas you need to look at. You need to look at 2 complete centre midfielders. I feel like you need an absolute complete centre forward. I feel like you need someone who is remarkably good left forward and a left wing back. That's what I feel like you need to be a really complete outfit in the Premier League. You've heard my argument that I feel like the best direction for this team is 4-2-3-1. I have made that argument many times. Physicality, 4-2-3-1, inverted wingers. That to me is the best direction to take with this team. If people want to see it differently, that's absolutely up to them, and we will see in time. And that's my call, pretty much, Russ. I totally appreciate you having given me the platform to express myself. I really do. It means I can get about my day in a healthy way without having all this pented up. So I really appreciate it, Russ.
Nice, mate.
Much love, much respect for everything you do for the club and everything you do for West Ham. I think I totally appreciate how you keep me informed on pretty much everything, and it means a lot to me. And I want to say thank you. It's been a really difficult season. God willing, we can get a point somewhere along the line. I'm sure we can. And I'll still be keeping a cheeky little eye on Newcastle just to hopefully brush switch aside for just to get us just so I can get on with the rest of my life. And that's it. And that's it. Cheers, Russ, I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I really appreciate you keeping us all informed about West Ham. It means a massive difference.
Good. All right, mate. Lovely stuff. Cheers, boss. Right. Cheers, take care, man. A good week. See you soon. Bye-bye. Right, let's bring in Budge. Budge, hello, mate. Sorry. Are you right? Sorry, Damien, bless him.
It's all right. I've only been here half an hour, but it's all good. I'll try and keep it brief, but I do want to kind of go back on a couple of Damien's points. One of them being that, he was asking about the Evan Ferguson deal and would he ever have, gone for the option or the obligation to buy. And I agree with you, Russ. I don't think he would have done because, let's be honest, he's been told that, he needs to keep the wage bill as kind of low as he can while he's at the helm. And Evan Ferguson is on £250,000 a week. So there is no way he's going to be obliged, being taken into an obligation or anything of that nature with him. I don't think we would have got him if that had been the case, to be fair.
I also think, for me, I mean, I think we maybe at the time I was thinking, brilliant, here's what we need, but I think personally part of that was a bit of a fail safe if Nicholas didn't come back from injury, and it was almost like Nicholas was the guy that he wanted. I mean, he was the guy he started that first game he played against Aston Villa, and I thought Evan similar type of player would have been if Fulkrug.
And it was also a bit of a knee-jerk reaction from what happened to Mikel Antonio as well.
Yeah.
First opportunity we got a striker in that was available for loan, you know. So there was sort of like a bit of a knee-jerk reaction as well. But I think, you know, when you look at that transfer, it was done with all the best intentions.
Yeah.
But it just hasn't worked out.
I think it's one of those things with us. It's like, you know, if Nicholas Fulkrug hadn't got injured, we might have never seen Graham Potter this season. Because you got to think that, you know, and it's like, because there was no, you know, if you think we weren't really actually, ironically, we were in more of risk going down than we were when Lopetegui had left, you know, and it's like, I still think there was something behind the scenes with that decision, because we know that Davy Sullivan would not pay money to sack someone. He didn't sack David Moyes, you know, so, and also, you know, not only to bring in, I mean, to get rid of everyone on Loppe's and then to bring in the Potter's things, plus Carl McCauley, he probably spent the best part of 8.5 million, I reckon, all in. Yeah. He wouldn't have done that unless there was something, whether it was the threat of him going to Everton, or
you know, like people could speculate that it's his connection with Karen Brady, etc. You know, there's going to be speculation to many things, but until we know the truth, you know, we got to take it at face value, Russ. And face value is, at the moment, he is the manager or head coach of West Ham United. You know, the team have got to get behind him. I put a question in the chat, and it was, you know, I think the most important question is at the moment is, are the playing staff on board with Potter and what he wants, what his vision is? You know, without them being on board, we're knackered, you know.
Yeah. And if we're let's be believed by Fulkrug, probably about half are on board.
Half of them are, yeah.
That's what he said, wasn't it?
The thing is that, you know, we can't keep going back to this. We need to go and get, you know, Jonathan David, or we need to go and get, you know, whoever, Ollie Watkins or whatever. You know, what can they do until the window opens? Absolutely nothing. They can't approach anybody because that's tapping up. You know, Chelsea got heavily done for that, didn't they? For tapping up a few years back. And, you know, what with all the PSR and everything else that's going on, they're keeping their eye on all this sort of stuff. You know, so the club are absolutely toothless at the moment when it comes to recruitment, etc. Yes, they can have an idea of who they would like to get. We're never going to know who they are. I mean, you know, you yourself, Russ, you sometimes muse at the fact that you've got a list of 100 plus players that we're linked with because of media links, etc. You know, and out of those, you're probably right 5% of the time, I would think.
I think last year we were linked to almost 170 players, and we signed 7 or 8, so less than 1%. Basically,
crazy, isn't it? Absolutely crazy. Yeah, I mean, okay, it gives us content for, you know, but at the end of the day, the frustration is that we all know that the clubs can do absolutely nothing till that window opens.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, it's true, mate. I
do have one question for you, Russ.
Of course.
Could you explain in a little bit more detail, because I must have missed it, what this 2-part transfer window is about?
Sure. Okay. So basically, because of the Club World Cup, which is happening in mid-June, FIFA have opened up all transfer windows early. So basically, a case in point, someone like Kevin De Bruyne. So Kevin De Bruyne's contract runs out on the 31st of May. Because of the Club World Cup, Man City have special dispensation to be able for him to play another 2 weeks, and that's the same true with players. So they can bring in players to play. So again, another idea: Paqueta, for example. Paqueta could leave for Flamengo on the 1st of June and play in the Club World Cup, and then realistically could then be banned when the hearing comes out. So in essence, it's two. So you've got the first is, I think it's the 1st of June. I think it's till the 10th of June, and then there's a break from when the Club World Cup is, and then it reopens. Now, normally for most, but because they're obviously in the Club World Cup, it's all the clubs from Europe are English. So the Premier League, you can only under FIFA directives have it has to be open for no more than 89 days. So at the moment, if it was from the first all the way to the third, it would have gone all the way through. And actually, the English transfer window would have finished about 10 days before the German, the French, the Italians. So that would have left us basically shit. So basically, our players would all be sold, and we'd have no fuckers left. So that's why we've had to have it. So that's why we've got this weird gap of 10 days. So then we're then in line with everyone else. That's basically it.
Right. Okay. So is it only teams or clubs that are in this Club World Cup that are allowed to buy in the early window, or does that open for everybody?
Now, I believe that's. I don't know about the outside of England. I know for English clubs we can buy, and I think we can buy international players for that. In the same way, like randomly, like the Turkish, like the MLS can buy players now. There's runs. Actually, no, it's run out now. I think it runs out at the end of April. So it's. But in terms of the British one will be open, I believe, a week, 10 days earlier. So that's why a lot of like Kudus's transfer is his wage is like transfer release clause that doesn't kick into the 1st of July because I think that's to go in line with all the others. It's very confusing, but we can buy players from the 1st of June basically, and then can't buy them.
Well, I'll disappear, Russ. I'll kick myself out because you've got somebody waiting. I'll talk to you soon.
See you, mate. See you, Budge. There you go, mate. And don't forget, Budgie, the Old School Hammers every Wednesday night with Kieran at 10 o'clock UK time. Let's bring in Adam. He's got a bit of time on his hands now. Yes, Ad, how you doing, mate? Look, outdoors in,
I feel like I'll take the dog for a walk and I'm going to bump into Bill by Baggins or something.
You're going dogging. You're dogging site. Yeah, we go. Literally, he's dogging.
What are you trying to say? How are you getting on? You good?
Yeah, we're good, man. We're good.
Good. On the point of the extended transfer window, there was an addition. I don't know if you've mentioned this or not, so I've joined fairly late. But whoever's contract is expiring at the end of that month has been automatically extended. So in terms of like Kevin De Bruyne, I think Kevin De Bruyne has gone on to an additional month or two, so he can play in this Club World Cup. So I just didn't know.
He doesn't want to play in it, does he? He don't want to play in it because he thinks he might get injured.
Yeah,
that's apparently what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's mental. It's mental. But in terms of like topic of conversation, I think like the Exodus is always interesting. What kind of is encouraging is the fact that you've got Graham Potter and Carl McCauley that's in charge of finding these players, sourcing these players, and they've got a proven track record in terms of lowering the average age of the squad.
Yeah,
but the negative side to that is that you've got David Sullivan conducting those deals, so he's going to be slightly meddling with it, isn't he?
That's. I mean, people talk about Potter's never signed up any players, and it's been under, it was under Ashworth and stuff. And granted, that's true, but that was 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. They've grown up. They've grown up now. They're and actually. Carl was credited with finding, the likes of Mitoma and Casado and stuff. So I think that's, I saw him on Saturday and we had a little chat and he knows he's got a big job ahead of him in the summer. He knows it.
Recruitment friends.
Yeah, recruitment friends. Well, he was he was standing there looking a bit perplexed in all honesty on the stairwell.
Yeah.
And so I was like, Carl, I went, yeah. I said, what's happening on Saturday? I said, you got a busy summer, mate. You went, yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So it's quite a. I mean, I always find these types of things exciting. It's nervous excitement. Anything could happen, and that is always been us as West Ham fans, mate. Similar ages.
Yeah.
Anything can happen when it comes to West Ham, and I think the modern fan doesn't get it. When it comes to West Ham, the modern West Ham fan. But for the likes of Budgie and GP and Howard and stuff like that, they've been around the block. This isn't new.
Yes,
this isn't new when it comes to West Ham.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know if you want to bring it up, but the spreadsheet that we talked about previously, where it was almost quite a week before, wasn't it? Because we was like looking at it, and then it's like, oh, well, the club are saying there's 16 players exodus. It's like, man, what's happened here? But I think looking at the figures, looking at the figures, like the players that could go, like say Kudus, that could generate minimum 80 million. Alvarez, I think, could generate 40 if you're at the right club. Like I say, it could be about £170 million income with about 40 odd million pound released in wages. So there's like over 200 million pound that we could invest in players. But what I'm hoping that the club will do is that they don't go for these household names. Like they don't go for these. Yeah, I hope not. Like what would encourage me is that they looked at players that are making a subtle impact, like low key impacts, but have a vast amount of potential ahead of them. You just look at the signings that Graham Potter and Carl McCauley has made in their entire history. Really, you can go all the way back to Ostersands in Sweden, and they buy players from out of nowhere. But even like with Brighton, like when you look at their, like you can go on transfer market, it's all up there for debate. But the year that they bought Mitoma, they bought 40 players, and these were like 2 million here, 4 million there, 6 million here, 1 million here. And then it is it comes across like a scattergun approach. But if you get one nugget like that, like Mitoma, that could probably go for 90. I think they got, was it Caicedo, wasn't it? They bought for like 3 million quid, sold in for 120. Like it's insane, isn't it? Like that policy is, buy as many as you can.
To be fair, even at Chelsea, I know he bought some big players. He bought the likes of Fernandez. He bought, Mudryk. He bought someone like Nuni. I mean, I like Nuni. I think Nuni was a fantastic.
Yeah, Noni Madueke, yeah.
And I really wanted him at West Ham, and they got him for like 20 odd million quid. So even like the step up from Mitoma, so I'm not too worried. I'll be honest.
Yeah, I'm not. I just hope that the man in charge, Sullivan, doesn't really kind of.
You've got to see through it. You've got to see through that, because, as you said, he could. I mean, you look back at Danny Ings, for example. Buying Danny Ings 15 million quid. There's a lot better players you can spend 15 million pounds on. But he bought a Premier League, ready player. In the same with the manager. You look at bringing Lopetegui, and actually look at Hans Flick and how well he's done it. He's doing it at Barcelona. I mean, he was one of the ones who we were going to get, but was rejected because of lack of Premier League experience.
Insane.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and that's the issue. So you've almost got to educate Sullivan on the stats, really. And we know that, he didn't favour a Potter, appointment under Lopetegui before when we got Lopetegui in, because he was saying it was all about the supercomputer and it's all Brighton. It was the computer that did it. And now you're going to be going to him, right? We want to get this guy from, I don't know, the Pro League in Belgium, and it's this side who's 10th and he'd never heard of them. It'll be like, you've almost got to trust us in that process, which is with the issue of not having a director of football in now. That's
it kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? Because years ago, when Sam Allardyce was in charge, and even Slaven Bilic, like they bought these players from literally nowhere. Like, nobody knew who Diafra was in the League Two. Like, we was getting him from, I think it was Metz, I believe.
Yeah,
and initially was going to buy him, and then Sullivan backtracked, wanted a loan. The transfer almost broke down, and then they negotiated the fee down. So something like that could work in our favour, because we're going to have plenty of expenditure. But again, like maybe that sort of old school negotiating tactics might work in our favour for us to not overspend on players effectively. But I hope that we just get the right players in. I say that you could look across the entire Europe of the most promising 20-year-olds that are under £5 million. There's a plethora there. It's a massive pool. It's just finding the right players in that pool.
I think a really interesting point you made when we looked at that spreadsheet was the wage bill, because we've got there is a lot of good players available on free transfers this summer. We know about Jonathan David. we get there's I'm not saying we're getting him, but the likes of Messi, I'm not saying Messi, but there's some, they're not like all like crap players. You've got CJ Egan from Burnley, who've just been promoted, who's part of their, he's a player we're looking at, who's 22. We'd offer him more wages than Burnley, and because of these players leaving, we can bring in players like that. And there's not just him. There's, I was going to do a whole thing about it, looking at that free transfer market. But you've got, you've got Jonathan Tah, who we've been looking at. You've got Tariq Mitchell. You've got some good players there who could potentially, Kyle Walker-Peters, we know, and actually having that extra ability in the bank to bring these players in and offer them more wages could randomly, maybe we found what they're trying to do. That's probably what they're trying to do now. But it's
staggering to think what our top 4 highest earners are at the club, isn't it? You've got Paquetá, Bowen. They're both, I think Paquetá's on 125, Bowen's on 120. Then you've got Areola that's on 120. And then fourth, people will be surprised by this, but James Ward-Prowse on 115k a week.
Plus it's like Danny Ings and
Danny Ings
Zuma.
You
forget about Zuma. You kept on forgetting about Zuma. He's on probably about.
I know. in our Reds, he's already gone, isn't he? But it's insane. It's insane. Like I think, I'm very excited about the summer. I know people haven't seen the all doom and gloom, but I think if you that's a good comment, to be fair. If they're free, then you have to pay more signing on fee and bigger wages to entice them because you're not paying a transfer fee. It kind of makes you wonder, if we bought Jonathan David for 20 million in January, then would his wages be less? Would the signing on fee be less? But now it's like, well, actually, if I wait, he's going to benefit from that directly. So let's see what happens, really, mate. I'm positive. I'm excited. I think a lot of people are saying Potter out. I think it's too premature at the moment. He's got to be given a full season, in my opinion, and a proper transfer window to do that, because I think he will rebuild that squad. And most importantly, as you're a big fan of it, the academy promotions coming up are going to be very, very important. Very important.
Yeah,
that saves transfer funds, doesn't it?
It does, and I think it's going to be it's a joined up approach, where I think probably under Lopetegui it wasn't so much. It wouldn't have been a call at all. And I think for me, it's a joined up approach because it's further down the line in your spreadsheet. It's maybe not next year. It's the 2026, 2017, 28. The likes of Alford and people like that.
Yeah, the next 3 seasons is crucial. I mean, obviously, this season you're going to see your outgoing players, but then next season you've got players like Emerson, Souček. Their contracts are going to be expiring, so it's like, do you cash in on their value now because they're coming to the end of their contract while they've got, that Souček could go for 20 million still, and you think we paid about 20 million in the first place plus a loan, and we've had 4 or 5 years out of him. I think that's a good return. I mean, you can't get loans that cheap.
No,
how much was Calvin Phillips on loan for 6 months? It was like 5-6 million quid. And then if we've had Thomas Souček for 5 seasons and looking to sell him at the same price we paid for him, the amortization side of it is fantastic on West Ham.
Yeah, I agree. Anyway, mate, thanks for joining me. You go back and look after the dog. I've got to go to do some more work, unlike you at the moment. So there we go.
Mate, it's a career break. It's a career break.
That's what I say.
But I've enjoyed a lot more time in the pub, so it can't be all wrong.
Can't be all wrong. And the weather will be nice for the beer garden.
Yeah, hopefully. But us gingers, we've got to stay in the shade.
We do. We do. The countdown for me is my holiday, and got to get my hat. Got to get a new hat. All right, mate. Cheers,
no worries, buddy.
Cheers, mate.
See you later.
Thank you. There we go. That was Adam from Dad's Eye Podcast. Don't forget to check them out. Right, I'm going to have to go because I've got to go back to work. But anyway, thanks for joining us. It was Damien and Budgie and Adam as well. Anton did try and jump on, but I'd rather have Damien talking than Anton today. Later on, Hammer's headlines talking about CJ Ergin Riley from Burnley, one of the players we've been linked with, and also a number of other championship players, but a number of promoted championship players, which are quite difficult. But as I said, there's I've got a feeling that sort of, even looking at Brighton, Tariq Lamptey's out of contract as well, and obviously Kyle Walker-Peters and people like that. So might be something we look at maybe maybe on Sunday. Anyway, guys, we'll have tomorrow starting 11 show, Stat Attack. Should also have I'll be doing the watch along for the Brighton game as well. With our friends at Match Bingo. Don't forget to hit that QR code. There's a link in the description as well if you want to get involved. If you could do it and download it, that will really help us out in the channel. Over 18s only and UK based as well. But so unfortunately our American friends can't participate. But anyway, don't forget also, if you are around the sort of Rush Green area tomorrow, the under-21s play Sunderland under-21s in the last 16 of the PL2 playoffs. 12 o'clock kickoff at Rush Green, £5 for adults, £1 for children, and it's free, I think, if you bring your season ticket holder. So if you bring not bring a season, if you bring your season ticket, not just bring John along because he's a season ticket holder, he'll get him free, but you just have to pay. Anyway, take care, everyone. Stay safe, stay warm, stay humble, keep the faith, and come on, you bloody irons. Much love. Bye bye.